we good? Are we live? Can y'all hear me? Hello? Oh my goodness, everyone's so excited. Okay. Alrighty, so I think the way that we're gonna do this, because I don't want to stay up for too long with this, I think I'm going to go through the questions that I received through just my YouTube posts, and then I'll kind of intermittently check in with the chat and see if there's anything else that people are like coming up with or whatever. But yeah, let me pull up the chat real quick on my phone so I can. How do I? There we go. Stop. Go away. Okay. So there's that. Got my chat open on the phone so that I can go to my Word document. Okay, questions. Yay. So I have them split up into 3 different kind of categories. I saw someone, did you know Thomas Sanders posted? Yes, I was just watching that video right before this, actually. It was very, very cute. Very cute. So I have 3 different kind of categories of questions. I have questions about like the story itself, the storyline, like character stuff, all that kind of things. I have more like kind of meta questions about like my process, and then I have just kind of in general questions. So I guess I'll go through. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to answer the channel questions first because there's less of them. And I have a feeling that a lot of these story questions will probably spark more conversation than the other ones will. So I'm going to start down here. So when reading out loud, do you ever cringe or start laughing or something and have to start over? I don't know if cringe is the right word, because most of the stories are my own writing. I kind of like know what's coming, you know, but there definitely have been times, especially with either Patton or Remus's dialogue, where I'll know what's coming and yet I'll still like giggle like a maniac about it, like freaking the dad joke at the end, near the end of chapter 5. Where Patton says something like, "Hi, Curious, I'm Dad." Like, I giggled for, like, 30 seconds after I said that line, because it was just so stupid. But, yeah, so definitely start laughing. I also stutter quite a bit. I'll talk too fast, and then I have to just do the sentence over. But I feel like that's pretty par for the course when you're doing any kind of voice acting, reading, whatever. I definitely have had to force myself to try and speak a little slower. Do you have TikTok? I do not. I've never had a TikTok account. Don't plan on getting one. I'm not a super fan of it, and I've heard some weird things about like the company that owns it, so just gonna avoid it altogether, basically. And with I Am Creativity done, what's next for the channel? So I have a couple of things planned. So I have a partially finished fic. It's a Beauty and the Beast AU. And there's 5 chapters out right now, and I managed to break through some writer's block. And I started writing the 6th chapter, and hopefully can kind of like start working through more of that. I also have a couple of stories that I've already gotten permission from the authors for. One of them is a multi-chapter fic with the Creativity Twins, and one of them is a row seat one shot with Remus being a matchmaker because he's awesome. So both of those will come out eventually. I think I'm probably going to, at least for now, hold off on making videos, and I'm sorry. I'm going to make videos in the background, basically, and kind of try and build up my repertoire, as well as the event that I have planned for upcoming, which I'm still trying. I'm in the beginning stages of gathering different one-shots for that event. It's been kind of a mixed bag asking for suggestions, because a lot of the things that other people like in a fic aren't really things that are personally very interesting or like compelling for me, and that's just, you know, down to personal preference, really. So yeah, I think that those are good. In the chat, Haley, are you going to make a new series based off of this? Do you mean like in terms of like talking back about a fic that I've written? Because I definitely would enjoy doing that. I mean, yeah, I guess you could say that I'll start the series. Okay, let's move on to the process questions. First one, how did you write the fic in under 4 months? And I did write it in under 4 months because obviously the fic kind of focuses on the Creativity twins, and we didn't know Remus existed until about 4 months ago. That's a good question, and honestly, it probably comes down to majority. My friend Elle, they are incredible, and they, they'll say they bullied me into finishing the fic, but really it was just very encouraging to have someone who I could kind of message about and talk to about my story, what I plan on writing and stuff like that. So I would highly recommend it if you're ever writing like a longer fic. I tend to have issues with like commitment with longer stuff, and this is one of the first fics that was this long that I ever actually like finished. And especially so soon, it was definitely a surprise even to me that I finished it in time. Let's see, looking in the chat real quick. I was thinking more of a part 6. Am Creativity is done. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, it left on a cliffhanger, but that was the ending I was planning for it pretty much from the beginning. I may at some point write a little, there's a question, that's a question that I'll address a little bit later down the line. I have it written down. People are asking Wattpad or AO3. I have a Wattpad. I don't post on it, and I don't go on Wattpad. I have just found too much stuff on there that really just isn't great. Like, for me personally, it wasn't really something that I wanted to read at the moment. And also, Wattpad doesn't have the best tagging system, so it's very hard to even find stuff that I would enjoy reading. Prefer AO3. I am on AO3. All of my fics are posted on there. You can find links in the description, but I'm under the same name, Dragon Saphira Reads. There's just no space. So I am on AO3. And on Tumblr as well by the same name. I'll get to that question in a second. I see it. Making a new chapter for Selfish Protector? Maybe. Honestly, I haven't forgotten about the series, and I definitely haven't, like, abandoned it, but my motivation for it has kind of been pushed to the wayside. What's happening is I'm waiting for this next Sandersides episode, because I know for a fact that we're going to get some Deceit content, some character development, and because Selfish Protector is so focused on Deceit, like that's what the story's about, I really want to wait and see what Thomas does, and then I'm gonna probably work around that and write in between whatever he does, because that series specifically is supposed to be very canon compliant. It's supposed to be like kind of behind the scenes of the series almost. So basically I'm waiting for Selfish Protector, and I know for a fact that the next episode like will just reignite my love for Deceit and writing him and stuff like that. But for now I'm kind of focusing on some of the other fics I have in the background. Yeah. Okay, I think I caught up. Okay, question 2. If you could go back and add something to the story to make it better or get rid of something you aren't proud of, what would it be? So I definitely would add more to chapter 3, as long as it is already. There were so many other ideas I had for it. Honestly, that could be a fic all on its own if I ever had the motivation to write it. It just, the sides as kids and thinking about how they would have changed during Thomas's development as a person, I think it's so interesting. I really wanted to have a scene with Deceit and Fear together. Maybe something talking about their names, something like that. And it's possible I'll make like a side series on my AO3 if I ever get the motivation or inspiration for any of those, but kind of have fallen off and I want to work on my other fics at the moment. So don't expect anything, but it's always possible that inspiration for this fic will return. But for now, I'm kind of just letting it lie. Let's see. What inspired you to write the fic? So, when Dealing with Intrusive Thoughts first came out, I probably watched that episode like 10 times in a row. Like the video would finish and then I would like rewind it and watch it again. Like I was so shook about Remus, and I was like, oh my god, there's so many possibilities. Like, what do I do? And then it must have been even just a couple days later. It wasn't that much further away, and I started having this idea of like, okay, what if they became a single side again? Like, how would that happen? And since then I've seen a lot of like King Creativity fusions on Tumblr and stuff, and like all the designs are freaking gorgeous. Like, some of my favorite artists have been playing with that idea, and I love all of them. But I wasn't a super fan of how they portrayed the actual like fusion, and like a lot of people were portraying like, oh, it'd be so bad for Roman, like, and then when they unfused, they would like, Roman would need to take time to recover, and I was like, I don't think so. Like, I want to write something that like isn't bad. So I did. Kind of almost trying to take like an approach on, how would it happen possibly in like actual canon, which is why it's mostly canon compliant, even though it's really not. Did you ever run into writer's block when writing IAC? Yes. Chapter 3 was a pain. Originally, Chapter 3 and Chapter 4 were outlined to be the same chapter, because I thought that the flashbacks weren't going to take that much time, and then I started writing Chapter 3, and I was like, oh, I have a lot more to say in this than I thought I did. Whoops. So ended up, Chapter 3 is like almost 15,000 words. Like, it's so long. Ended up splitting that then into Chapter 4, and so originally the story was only supposed to be 4 chapters, became 5. And again, I have to say thanks to Elle, because my writer's block would have been an issue. But they kind of just helped me like talk through and just figure out like what was I stuck on so I could continue. And it did push me, knowing that I had someone who really enjoyed my work and just really wanted to read what I was writing. But yeah, definitely did. And pushing through it was a bit of a struggle, but it was just little chunks I wrote at a time. I wrote a lot while I was at work. I just had a Word document on the side, and if like inspiration would strike me in like dialogue that I wanted to write or something like that, I would just jot it down and then email it to myself at the end of the day. So yeah, it was a process for sure. Do you write your stories to make people cry, or do you just write whatever you feel like? I write stories that speak to me, or I tell a story that I personally want to read or see in some way. I'm not really a big fan of the whole idea that, like, of people writing stuff just to gain approval or gain notes or whatever. Like, you know, certainly when I post my stuff on Tumblr or AO3 or whatever, like, I like getting recognition, don't get me wrong, but I have learned through years of experience that writing things for other people is not a good way to motivate yourself. So yeah, I write things for myself, but I definitely do have a maniacal little smile on my face when I write certain scenes, and I know that it's going to make people cry. I certainly was grinning to myself when I sent Elle the final chapter, because I was very excited for Patton's breakdown and how they reacted to it. It was a very good reaction. All right, let's check out the chat again. What's going on? How did you come up with the passion character for Am Creativity? So, passion/obsession has started as a theory for what the orange side is going to be. Originally, we were thinking, okay, so Rainbow Theory has been confirmed. We know that there's at least one more dark side because of Virgil's line in SVS. So, orange, right? What does the color orange represent? And we looked through that and didn't really find anything. But then we started to think, okay, like, the orange side, considering the other two, Deceit is kind of a foil for Patton, and Remus, obviously, is a foil for Roman. Like, those two go together. Patton and Deceit can be, debated, and we could debate that forever. But basically, our whole thought process was, all right, what if the orange side was kind of geared towards, making sure Thomas didn't listen to his logic, or, like, had issues listening to his logic while he was around. And so we started thinking of things that were, like, that might blind logic. And the phrase blinded by obsession came into my mind. And that's kind of where it started. He became passion when I thought, okay, like, the other two dark sides are kind of based on villain archetypes, right? Like, character archetypes for villain characters. Deceit's like the cool, cunning, like, person who can, like, talk his way out of anything, and Remus is the one who hits things really hard. So I was like, all right, what if the orange side was like a fallen hero archetype? Either he used to be a light side and then became a dark side for whatever reason. And I didn't have the full story set out then, but that's basically where he came from, was the theory of just, what would happen if this... And it just kind of spiraled from there, honestly. Do you think they'll ever fuse in canon? No. But it's cool to think about. Will you ever do anything more for the Demigod AU? Yes. Motivation for that one is low right now. I'm trying to get drawing done, but I can't for whatever reason. It's having issues. So many people saying that they like the dark sides. Hell yeah, dark sides are great. If you want to send me your fic, you can. And you should. There's no guarantee that I will read it for my, like, that I'll choose it, but you certainly can. I was really excited about Patton's breakdown. Yes, I was. Thank you, Grace, for quoting me on that. Someone said, "What about Remy?" What about Remy? I don't know what that question is referring to. That was a while ago. What did I say? Yeah, I always thought the orange, Katie, I always thought the orange side would be procrastination. See, in a way, obsession could also be linked to procrastination, because, like, if you're obsessed with, like, say, a TV show or something, like, you're probably not getting actual work done. So I think that definitely could work. Nope, you're not late. I'm just getting into the character story-related questions now. So question 1, which has been asked by several people. Will there be a sequel? Short answer, no. The 5 chapters that I posted are the story. Like, that's it. That's how I intended it to end. Not going to be there's not going to be a chapter 6, nothing like that. Again, it's possible that I will get motivation to write something. There was a quick idea of like a kind of spin-off one-shot that I could write, but it's kind of petty, so I probably won't do it just because I don't want to be that bitch. But no, the story is as it is. What happened between Virgil and Deceit? So I've thought about this a lot, both just in canon and in this story in particular, which really are one and the same, but whatever. And I personally don't think that it was one moment. A big part of it, I think, was that Deceit welcomed Remus and Valentine over to their side of the mind, but Virgil didn't really like them. He was scared of them. He was fear. He fears the unknown, and he fears, the people who are in his mind against him. And I don't know how well this really came through, but in the first scene when Remus goes over and talks to Deceit and meets Deceit and Fear, it's kind of meant to imply that Virgil is not great about talking good about himself, and he's not great about talking good about Deceit. So Deceit saying like, oh, we're used to it, like we're used to living over here, we belong over here, like that's meant to be self-deprecating. Like it's not true necessarily. Like there's no maybe evidence behind it. It's just fear saying, we're different, we don't belong. So I think part of it was probably Deceit kind of realizing like, no, I'm my own side and I have a purpose. I'm here for a reason. I do my job. This is what I do. This is what I'm made for. So I think that was part of it. They kind of definitely would have fought over something like that, but it wasn't any specific one thing, because that's not how deep friendships break. It's a combination of a million smaller things. So I can't really answer the question because honestly, I'm not even sure if they know what happened between them. Just kind of one day you wake up and you realize when, you aren't friends anymore. And it's very jarring when you finally make that realization. How did Valentine go blind? So for 2 reasons. One, it kind of is playing off of the idea of blinded by obsession, that Obsession himself is blind as hell. But also, I was kind of playing off of the line earlier when it said, like, Logic was saying something about, like, oh, he's gonna ruin Thomas's eyes by sitting in front of the TV all day. That's basically what happened. His eyes went really bad because he was sitting in front of the TV entirely. When Creativity complimented Logan, why did he blush? It's just Creativity is now just very confident. He's very clearly like in control of himself. He's very clearly like confident and not like confidence like Roman or Remus had. It's not fake. It's just very much like Creativity knows who he is and knows what he's for and knows what he does. And just being complimented by a person who's just very confident in what they're saying is a little embarrassing. So it really, I was trying to mirror the thing that happened at the end of Dealing with Intrusive Thoughts when Thomas called Logan cool, and Logan just kind of looked dumbfounded. He was like, wait, what? And sunk out. That was kind of the idea I was trying to portray. Has Thomas discovered Valentine/obsession yet? I think I was going off of the idea that in I Am Creativity canon, yes, he has met Obsession before, but he's only met him as Obsession So he doesn't know that, like, none of the sides know, besides obviously the dark sides, know that he used to be Passion. Are the Selfish Protector and I Am Creativity connected in some way? They're only connected by my headcanons for things. Like, my headcanon for Deceit's room being, like, the glowing spheres in his sky. That carries over between both, but it's only because that's what I headcanon his room to look like. They're not, like, you know, one's not a sequel to the other or anything like that. They're both canon verse, but they're separate. How did Thomas react when Creativity introduced himself? This was a question I saw a lot. And that's kind of why I ended it where it is, because it's meant to be, you know, that's why the whole thing was in the epilogue, because it's meant to be showing that there's a new story starting. You know, Roman and Remus, their story has closed, but Creativity story is just starting, and it's meant to be just a little look into that new story. It's not meant to be, I guess, an ending in that sense. So I know that may not be very satisfying for some people, but it's kind of up to you. You can think about it, and if you want to write your own sequel, go ahead. Like, you know, I'm not going to do it. So if you want to do it, if you have the motivation to do that, go ahead. Sorry. Why did Remus challenge Roman for the title of Creativity if he knew he was going to lose? So I guess this is another thing that I would have added to be a little bit more clear. I tried to have them talk about it in chapter 4, and it didn't work, so I had to cut it out. But Remus was fading completely. He was turning translucent. He was like becoming a ghost, essentially. And he knew, he figured anyways, that he was just going to disappear completely, whether he had any choice or not. He didn't know that they were going to become Creativity. He just figured if he was going to die, you know, or if he was going to fade or whatever, that he wanted to go out with a bang. He wanted to fight his brother one last time, and he wasn't planning on losing. Like, he was giving it everything he got, but he kind of figured he was at as much of a disadvantage that he probably would lose. Alright, the next question is going to probably make me a little bitter. So I'm going to look through the chat real quick. A lot of people saying that they liked the ending, they cried at the ending. Are you going to post the responses to our questions from the Demigod AU stream? Well, I haven't answered them yet, first of all. And second of all, probably not, because they aren't, like, stories. They would be, like, short little blips, possibly with a drawing. They're on the Tumblr. They're you know, free to see. Making a Tumblr is free, and you may not be able to see it if you don't have a Tumblr account. I don't know how Tumblr is with viewing Tumblr links if you're not logged in. But no. I guess, in a way, you can consider it some exclusive content. If you want to see all of the stuff from the AU, follow the blog. But I will be doing, as soon as I post some, I will be doing more story posts on here. I will read them on here. I just won't post everything from the blog on here. Why does Virgil not like being called Fear? Because that's not his name anymore. He used to be Fear, and then as Thomas kind of grew, he turned into more Anxiety. Because the way I see it, you know, child Thomas probably didn't have generalized anxiety like the disorder. You know, just was fearful about stuff, and that was what Virgil's job was. But now he is Anxiety. That's who he is. So it's a matter of calling him by his name. And he was shocked by it in when Creativity called him that, because he hadn't been called that in so long. It wasn't that he necessarily disliked it. He was just really surprised that he even knew that, because the other sides hadn't called him that in years. And he didn't even know that Roman had known that that was even his name once upon a time. So, someone asking about Selfish Protector, I kind of already answered that, but I'm waiting for the next episode to come out before I continue that one. Talking about gay, definitely. Tina, if I haven't answered your question, you're gonna need to send it again, because I'm not super looking at the chat right now. And if it's on my list, I'll get to it. I love the thought that whenever someone compliments Logan, a window error noise plays. That's basically what happens when people compliment me. So, like, I feel that. More gay. People like the ending. I'm thankful that people like the ending. Seeing as you've written stories based on two of the sides, do you want to write one solely focused on another side story like Logan or Patton? If something comes up to inspire me, I could. But the dark sides inspire me a lot more than any of the light sides do. I'll be perfectly honest. I don't really care that much about them in canon. But I definitely use them in AUs, and there are different AUs. I mean, I'm writing a Beauty and the Beast AU, which is pretty solely focused around Logan at this. I mean, it's also focused around Deceit, because that's just who I am. But that's a Logan story. Tina, you need to post your question, or if it's on my list, I will get to it. Are you going to answer our questions from the Demigod AU? I already answered that. No. I will not post them on YouTube. They're going to stay on my Tumblr. I will post more story posts, though. I will record those as soon as they're written. And post them on here. But any like asks are, unless they spawn like a full-on fic, in which case I probably will read them. If they just spawn like a cute little blurb, then probably not. YouTube just isn't really formatted to hold that kind of content. And it provides a motivation to go check out my Tumblr. So, talking about gay. I saw another question. Hold on. How did Passion give up parts of himself? Basically, I'm not really sure. I do know that it was kind of more of a gradual thing. Like, it probably seemed like in the chapter he just, like, did it and was gone. And that's kind of what happened, but it was more like he kind of gently pushed those, like, responsibilities towards them, and those three just kind of picked them up without even thinking about it, and kind of made them part of their own responsibilities. Because you need to remember that they're not human. They're part of Thomas. They're like, you know, metaphysical human beings. They're not real. So I imagine that they're capable of kind of transferring stuff like that, as long as it kind of fits with the other things. How long have you been in the Sandersites fandom? Almost since the very beginning. I liked Thomas's Vines back when Vine was still alive, and I wasn't a super part of the fandom in the first couple episodes, but I definitely saw his videos from the very beginning. I followed Thomas from Vine onto YouTube. Well, Tumblr's free, Tina. There's nothing stopping you from making one. Do you see the sides with animals, like how Deceit and Remus are a snake and octopus? What do you think the light sides animals are? I'm not sure that the light sides have one, because I think part of the reason that the dark sides are associated with animals is because they're things that Thomas fears. You know, snakes and spiders and kraken, deep sea creatures are things that Thomas fears and things that most people fear, to be honest. So I'm not sure that it's really like, I think it's more based on like fears rather than like being based on an animal. What got you into writing in the first place? Oh God, I've been writing since I was a kid. Like, not even joking. It's been probably like 10 years writing legit. I have writings from back when I was in like second grade. So it's been a long road, and I couldn't even tell you what got me into writing. I know what's kept me into writing, and that's, I really enjoy telling stories. I enjoy being able to use words to describe, just describe, stories, take people on a ride, have them explore and understand these characters that either I've created or whatever, or, someone else created and I'm just kind of playing with. If in both the AUs, Patton is portrayed as the one trying to stop the Darks from fitting in, would he be turned into naivety because he's almost trying to force positivity by keeping things the same? He wouldn't turn into like naivety or something, but he's definitely, he definitely is naive. But that's, again, Patton is part of Thomas. Patton is Thomas's morality and his emotions, and Thomas is a person who's very much just, I feel like, he doesn't like change. He gets anxious about it. There was a whole episode about that. So I don't blame Patton for the way it is. I mean, I get the same way too. Like, I don't like change. And it's hard to accept parts of yourself that you maybe don't like. So he's not a villain for that. But I definitely identify with the Darks, and their struggles. Just, I can see myself in some of the stuff that they do. So I don't know. I like portraying Patton like that. Like, he's doing the best. He's doing his best. Just maybe it isn't the best for Thomas. He just thinks it is. But yeah. Danger Noodle, I already answered that. I will continue Selfish Protector when I feel like it. Okay, let's go back to these questions, because this one, what is creativity's name? / can you name creativity blank? Or / is creativity's name blank? Okay. This is the question that sparked the idea of writing a very petty response one-shot, which I'm not going to write because I cannot stop myself from being salty if I did, and I'm not going to do that. Creativity does not have a name for a reason. There's a more meta reason, but there's also a very important story reason behind it. So the meta reason is that I couldn't find a name that I liked. I didn't like the name Romulus. I didn't like, I've seen someone with King Creativity Fusion as Aeneas. I've seen like more combinations of like specifically their names, like Romus or whatever. And like, those are fine. Those are cool. I appreciate them for what they are. But my creativity is a little bit different, because he's not just a fusion of them, and he's also not a king. Yes, he has that aesthetic, but that's because he's a combination of Roman and Remus, but he's not king creativity. He's just creativity. And the reason for that is because Roman and Remus, ever since they were split, went without being called creativity. The others still got called by their names as well as their titles, you know, especially in the videos. The only person who ever calls Roman Creativity is Thomas, and that's because Thomas doesn't know that Remus exists. Clearly the others do. So for years, both Roman and Remus have been, you know, they haven't been able to really embrace their title because they never get to be called by it. So when they become a single entity again, they're so happy to be able to finally be referred to as Creativity that they don't pick a name. They don't want a name. Creativity is their name, and that's what they're going to go by. They're just so relieved to be able to be themselves again, to be himself again, that like he doesn't want a name. And that's my answer. I'm not giving him a name. You can call him Crea if you need to shorten it, because Creativity is a mouthful and sucks to type. But that's his name. Question 10. Were Roman and Remus gone for good, or did they become Creativity's angel and / devil? So, yes and no. Basically, Creativity is like Stevonnie from Steven Universe. Stevonnie is their own person, but they are also a combination of Steven and Connie. That's essentially what I was going for. I had a couple different scenes in my head when I was writing the end of chapter 4. I had Stevonnie's different scenes where they fuse together, and then I had the scene from the season 5. Is it the finale? When Steven fuses back with himself. That's kind of the vibe I was going for. So Roman and Remus aren't gone necessarily. They're both still in there, but as more time passes and Creativity kind of settles back into himself, they're less distinct entities and more just like, you know, kind of voices in his head, like, you know, and they become a single voice in his head. So because Roman and Remus were two halves of a whole to begin with, you know. Creativity at the very beginning of chapter 3 is essentially the same entity as this Creativity. He has memories of being Roman and being Remus, but he's also not them anymore. Question 11. How did Deceit / Obsession react to the new plan? They were skeptical, for sure, and more so than just what was shown in chapter 4. Things have been like they are for so long. Deceit especially is very jaded about it, because he's been in the dark the entire time. You know, Obsession is a little more likely to believe that Remus, or that, you know, Creativity now with both Roman and Remus, like, they're able to actually make a change. They're willing to listen to Creativity and like go along with his plans most of the time, but it's very much like a hesitance there. How is Obsession coping with having Creativity as a full unit back? Interestingly, because remember, Passion and Creativity were friends, like, as themselves years and years and years ago. Passion knew Creativity, you know, before he split into Roman and Remus. So I imagine it's very much like a shock to him to be seeing his old friend, you know, from so long ago, and they've both changed so much, but they're also, you know, still the same people overall. So very bittersweet. But with Creativity trying to help Deceit and Obsession come over and they all be in the light side, he's happy to have his friend back, but he's also, you know, upset that he had to lose his other two friends to be able to get him back, basically. And kind of along a similar vein, does Deceit miss the Trash Man? He certainly is, you know, discomforted by how quiet their side of the mind is now. Obsession isn't exactly a loud person. He tends to just sit in front of the TV and, like, not move for hours. So definitely, you know, his life has changed and his habits have shifted since Remus kind of became Creativity again. Did creativity tell the other sides what truly happened to passion, and did logic have to face the realization that he played a part in their disappearance? No. Creativity wouldn't do that. He wouldn't tell them. He's kind of left it up to Obsession to say that. And Obsession probably ultimately decided that there's no point in bringing it up, really. Like, it happened. It was his decision. Like, he didn't have to leave with Remus, and Obsession knows that. So even though it sucks, Obsession probably will never tell them. It'll probably be a secret that he'll take to his, like grave, I guess. Like, whatever. Let's see. What is chat saying? People talking about Steven Universe. Steven Universe is awesome. I love it. It's so cute. Alright, just people talking about Steven Universe, it looks like. Alright, cool. Good. Steven Universe is good. Okay, what was Thomas's reaction to losing Roman and Remus but gaining a fully formed and whole creativity? Sad at first, but he quickly realizes that creativity is those two just combined into one body. He's more whole than either of them were, and it shows in, like, his ideas are more well-rounded. They consider both the good and the bad, and creativity doesn't take as much. He'll still, like, include the others in discussions about his ideas and stuff, but he also will defend his ideas more, and kind of, you know, defend the bad with the good, and things that either Patton might want to cut or whatever. Like, creativity will stand up for himself. He'll still, you know, if eventually the consensus is get rid of it, then sure. But basically it took him a while, but he figured out that he didn't really lose anyone. It just kind of, they changed form. And it was weird, but that's what happened. Do you predict that in this storyline, all the sides will eventually be able to accept each other and work together? I know that's creativity's goal, but there are a lot of obstacles to face when trying to achieve that. That would be the hope. It would take a long time, but I think, you know, the goal and the idea behind Sandersides as a series is accepting yourself, understanding different parts of yourself, loving yourself, all of this stuff. So eventually I would like to see it happen, and I think eventually it will happen in the series itself, or at least mutual understanding between all of the sides. They may not, like, love each other as family completely, but I think that they'll be able to work together properly. But it's a never-ending goal, just, you know, as a person, like, understanding yourself, and there's constantly more things to learn. If creativity separated... That's how I stutter. If creativity separated again, what would the effect be on Roman and Remus? I would hope that that wouldn't happen, because they split in the first place because creativity knew that Patton, well, morality at the time, disapproved of some of his ideas, and creativity couldn't really understand the criticism or understand why it was wrong. So that night, he ended up kind of subconsciously dividing himself in two. So it probably wouldn't it wouldn't happen in the same way, for sure. And I doubt it would happen at all, because, you know, as much as it was morality's influence, creativity split himself up the first time. So now creativity understands that, like, he exists separately from morality for a reason. They can work together, but ultimately they do have separate purposes, and creativity doesn't need to limit himself by what morality says is okay to think about and to create and whatever. And so Creativity is just a lot more, like, comfortable with himself. And, you know, even if he was forced apart again, there's no saying that what would pop out would be Roman and Remus. If Roman and Remus were in the same room as Creativity, what would happen? I mean, I imagine a brainstorming session unlike the likes you've ever seen. Putting 3 creative people together is going to be a whirlwind no matter what. But yeah. Alright, what is chat? I see a lot of hearts happening in chat. I don't know what's going on. How did the sides react when they met Obsession? That is a one-shot that I want to write at one point. Although it doesn't really work with I Am Creativity based on how the other characters know Obsession, but basically the idea I have, which is more for like if the reveal was in like canon, like an episode, is that Obsession like rises up and comes up and introduces himself to Thomas as Passion. And he's dressed kind of similar to how Passion used to dress years ago, just a little more grown up. And the 3 others, Patton and Roman, maybe not Logan, because he probably rose up in Logan's spot, and Logan's probably not there. He's probably being suppressed, to be honest, when Passion's there. But Patton and Roman are like, oh my god, like, where did you go? Like, we missed you, like, blah, 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 all this stuff. And eventually it takes Virgil popping up to be like, hey, Thomas, like, I know this guy seems cool, but actually this is an issue. This is dangerous territory that we're looking in. Because I think that's part of where I think, like, the fallen hero thing comes in. Because the Lightsides don't know that Passion and Obsession are the same person. So that is something maybe, alright, we'll see. No promises. Thomas is gay. Random question, do you know what AJR is? No. I don't know what that is. Will Virgil cope well with Creativity, or will Creativity mostly remember him as Fear? Creativity has Roman and Remus's memories, but they're like, at the time of him waking up, they were just completely jumbled, and he was having trouble, like, placing things on a timeline, essentially, which is why he was able to remember without being prompted that, like, no, this isn't Fear, this is anxiety, this is Virgil, like, I imagine it'll be weird for all of them, but Creativity butts heads with Virgil less than Roman did, and that's not just because, like, you know, Roman and Virgil had gotten along before Creativity fused back. It's definitely also because Creativity is, you know, less likely to jab at him about certain things. I personally have a hard time being satisfied with myself when I'm done with a project. Does this happen to you? And if so, how do you deal with it? Well, satisfied, that's a hard term to use, but I definitely felt a variety of emotions when I finished I Am Creativity. When I posted the final chapter, I was like, I'm done. This is done. What do I do now? And it was just a really weird experience. To, you know, like, have this story that I wrote and I finished and people like it. I personally have trouble finishing projects most of the time. But I think the important thing is that you're always learning as a writer, as an artist in general. Like, no matter what skill you're practicing, there's always going to be things that you still need to learn, or you still can learn, I guess I could say. And when you're, like, first starting out, the difference between, stories that I'm going to just use the writing as an example, but this goes for any skill. The difference between the stories that you write can be drastic because you're learning so many things so quickly that you're applying those skills in every new story that you write. And sometimes, and I definitely had this when I was in like middle school-ish, high school, and writing a bunch of stuff, I would start writing a project and then just like leave it for a bit because I had school going on, and then I would come back to it and be like, ew, like this is gross, like I can do so much better, and would just drop it and leave it and just start another thing. And as you kind of taper off and you've got those basic skills down and you've got some of the more advanced skills down, you're still learning, but it's a lot slower of a process, so you're able to kind of like enjoy the fruits of your labor more, even though there will always be things in what you create that you aren't happy with. And I guess one of the things to me is like, you are not stuck with that if you don't want to be. If you wrote it on Google Docs, you can always go back and edit things. You can always rewrite the story if you really want to. It takes a lot of time, and you won't be able to do that for every story, but if there's something that you really, really, if there's an idea that you really like and you just don't like how you did it, don't feel stuck in what you created. Don't feel like you have to keep it, and that's not to say, oh, delete everything if you slightly dislike it. Like, no, because other people aren't you. And I have people who have commented on really old fanfics back when I was on fanfiction.net rather than AO3. And they're like, oh my god, this is incredible. Like, I love this story. And then I'll go and look at it and be like, really? You like that one? Okay. There will always be things in your work that you see as flaws, but some of those things, they may be flaws to you, but to someone else, they're what makes, that piece of writing speak to them. So, I don't know where I was going with this. It's hard to be satisfied in what you create, especially when you're still learning. But all I can say is just keep going, because you will get to a point where you can be happy in what you create. And even if that point takes a long time to come to, just enjoy the ride. It's fun learning a new skill. It's fun writing. It's fun practicing. That's why we do it. People are talking about cookies in the chat. What do you think would happen if deceit ducked out like Virgil? Like, would Thomas not be able to lie, or what do you think? So, I have dabbled with the idea of writing something like this, possibly in Selfish Protector, maybe not, I don't know. It was an idea, like, it was a thing that I knew I was going to do at the time, and then Dealing with Intrusive Thoughts came out and ruined my plans. But I personally think it's not that Thomas wouldn't be able to lie. It's that he wouldn't be able to differentiate between lies and truth. He wouldn't be able to understand the difference, So, and he wouldn't really even think to try and decipher that information in the first place. I know a lot of people say, oh, what if all the sides go into Deceit's room and, like, it makes them be honest, or he ducks out and they can't lie, so it's but Deceit isn't he's not called lies, he's called deceit. But you can be deceitful and tell the truth. You don't have to tell a straight out lie in order to be deceitful. So I think it would definitely be more of Thomas being unable to differentiate between truth and lies, and kind of like Thomas not being able to feel fear at all, and like not even worrying about the fact that that's not normal. Like, he doesn't consider that that's not normal. People are talking about bands. Majestic Poison, I already answered that question. Creativity's name is Creativity. Yeah, I'm scrolling back through the chat so I can read the stories. Has anyone thought the new side would be white or black? I doubt it. One, because those colors have kind of shown to be other outfit like base outfit colors, and then the accent color shows up on it. So like, Deceit wears mostly black, but his color is yellow. Virgil, his color is purple over black, etc. So I don't think a pure white or black side would really work. I definitely am 100% on the orange side theory. I think everyone who creates hates their own stuff. I think that can be a damaging mentality to hold, because yes, my first inclination is to agree with you, because there are definitely I've created a million things and I don't like a lot of them. Stuff that I wrote a year or two ago I'm not a super fan of, but I'm also don't want people to think that being an artist means only creating things that you hate, because there are times, where I'll write like a piece of dialogue or a paragraph of, description, and I'll just like love it. It just sings, and it's okay to look at your work and be like, I don't like this, I can do better, like I want to try again. That is fine. Just don't fall into the pit of hating everything you create, so you end up not creating at all, which is definitely what has happened with my drawing skills. Can we make fan art? Abso-flippin'-lutely you can. Claus, I mean, your OC sounds cool, but is she like a side? Or is she like a human AU type of thing? Have you thought about who your own sides would be and how they would function? Not extensively. Self-insert characters, or, I guess it's not really self-insert, but like, it's the closest thing I can use to describe it. Not really my jam anymore. But I definitely have compared myself to Thomas and compared how my sides would be. And I definitely know that my morality would be a lot more chill. My anxiety would be a lot more just like brutal. And my creativity is one piece for sure. If Roman and Remus are both creativity, do you think they both share a room or separate ones? I think that they share a room, or at the very least, they influence each other's rooms, because Thomas or was it Joan? Someone on the team said that we couldn't see Roman's room until we met someone else, and that was before dealing with intrusive thoughts, so I'm willing to bet some money that we needed to meet Remus before we could see his room. So I have to imagine that Remus is in some way involved with the room. Whether or not they like completely share a room, or if it's like combined or something, I don't know. But I have a lot of trouble sticking with a story long term, even though most of my ideas are long-term ideas. How do you keep your mind on the current story? Haha, you're asking the wrong person. Really, Am Creativity was happening at the same time that I was writing my Beauty and the Beast AU. I kind of dropped it was also happening at the time of The Selfish Protector, and clearly I dropped one for the other, but that was because my inspiration was so strong. But if you lose the inspiration for one story and pick it up for another, what I say is, take that and, run with it as long as far as it'll take you. Because right now, oh god, let's see. Right now, I have my Roll Swap AU that I'm working on. I have my Beauty and the Beast AU that I'm working on. I have several other AUs that are in planning stages right now, which I may not ever do anything with. I have my Demigod AU that is outlined, and for some reason, I just can't start. I don't know why. And I also have another project that I'm working on for something standard-size related, but it's not just my own. You won't see it on my channel, but I will post a link to it as soon as it comes out, or as soon as anything comes out that I can promote. I don't know if I can say anything about it, so I'm not going to right now. Yeah. What do you think Logan's room would be like, / how it would affect the others if they were in his room? I imagine Logan's room would have almost the opposite effect as Patton's room. So I think it'll probably affect Patton the most. And Roman. I think it'll affect the two right brains the most. Anxiety, honestly, like Virgil will probably be fine. Because, at least for me, I'm a very logical person, and my anxiety calms down when I have facts. When I can say, if I'm having anxiety about like I have a fear of storms. I don't like being in storms. Because I've been close to several tornadoes forming. So I'm not a fan. But part of what helps calm me down is my knowledge of how tornadoes form, like what circumstances they form under, all this stuff. And so I personally think that Logan's room won't affect Virgil that much. But it will severely dampen Patton, and considering Roman specifically has ideas that are way too fanciful for Logan's like brand, I definitely think that those two are going to have the biggest effect. I don't think it'll be boring, because Logan is not boring. I kind of take offense to that, because I relate very heavily with Logan. He just, he has trouble engaging because the other sides don't necessarily care always about what he's saying, which is, whatever. Everyone has their own interests, but I think that it'll be very fun whenever we get Logan's room. I'm probably not going to stream for that much longer. The Beauty and the Beast AU sounds awesome. When can we see it? Good question. I'm probably going to focus on making some videos for the other fics that I have currently before I start doing that, just because I want to have more written for the Beauty and the Beast AU before I do anything. Because if I started recording it now, the first 5 chapters, stuff happens, but, it's not the good stuff yet. So I kind of want to have more, done before I do anything with that on my thing. But it is on my AO3, same name as here, just no space between Saphira and Reed's. Alright, I finally got to the bottom of the chat. Okay. Is there any other questions that you guys had for me? Because otherwise it's been over an hour, and I'm probably going to sign off soon. Yeah, there's been lots of gay lots of cookies, lots of hearts. You can get gay if you want. Well, Snake, you can go back and you can rewatch the stream once I end it, because it'll probably be soon. My voice is starting to hurt a little bit. Yeah, this was fun. I definitely want to do more of these types of streams. You're fine, Remy. It's fine. I love Logan. Final question. Do you think Logan physically can't feel, or that he just pretends so he can feel, so he seems more serious? Sorry. I think that he definitely has less feelings. If we're going with my canon, Logic legit didn't have emotions before he, like, as a child. Like, he really didn't. He was very purely, like analytical. But with Passion's gift, he gained those emotions. But he never consciously knew that that's what happened. So he remembers that, oh, I never had emotions. And he never fully grasped the idea that, like, he does now, because he doesn't know where they came from, basically. Is there a way to contact you? You can contact me on my Tumblr. You can also join my Discord. There's a link. You'll have to scroll down through my community posts, but I believe I have a link on there. Yeah, my Tumblr and my Discord are probably the best ways to talk to me. I like to imagine that Logan is literally the most emotional out of everyone, but it just pushes them aside and when he's with everyone else. I see the appeal of that, but I also think it's interesting to play with the idea that he doesn't have that many emotions, or like he you know, they're more muted than anything else, but he tries to be empathetic. He just is not very good at them. I don't know why people are talking about Bakani and Remy. But yeah, alright. Thank you all for coming out. I really appreciate it. Definitely want to do more of these types of, like, talkback streams for my own fics. Doing them, I mean, I guess maybe I could rope in one of the authors for the other fics that I write and see if we could do, like, a joint stream, but we'll see if they agree to that. But yeah, I will see all of you lovely little gemstones sometime soon.